Hello and welcome into the RTI Press Pass podcast, post-game edition from Tennessee's 42-9 win over New Mexico State here in Neyland Stadium. I'm Ryan Sylvia, joined by Ryan Shumpert. Rick Butler, bad guy, not a good guy.
Awful guy.
Not with us tonight.
We lost Rick.
We lost Rick.
He's somewhere in the press box, I guess.
Yes, he's doing other work at the moment, but he doesn't have to know we called him a bad guy to open the show. But more importantly,
makes me mad.
More importantly, Tennessee back in action after a bye week, heading into a big Florida game. As you're listening to this, I'm going to assume the Florida game's over as we record this. It's a little after halftime. I know they were up 4 at halftime, so maybe a little spicier of a game than maybe we thought it could have been after how bad Florida looked last week against Kentucky. But we'll get to that later. Let's start with Tennessee. I know what my number one takeaway from this game was. I want to hear yours, though, Ryan Shumpert. What was your number one takeaway from this?
Can I guess what your number one takeaway is? Let me say what my number one takeaway is. Because I'll keep it serious, because I don't think yours is going to be super serious. My number one takeaway is that, here he is, the piece of garbage.
Were you guys talking smack about me?
Yeah, that's exactly what we were doing.
See, I set this whole thing up. I set up that I was going to come in a minute and a half into the recording just to see what was being said.
Did you plan a bug?
No, I just knew what was going to go on. My own friends, my own coworkers. You can't trust them as far as you can throw them, and I can't throw either of them very far. Not on me, because of them.
We kind of implied that you were maybe or maybe not dead.
And that you're a bad guy.
Oh.
Well, the bad guy part was just a given.
Whoa.
We said we've lost Rick.
That's unbelievable.
We said Rick is not with us.
I can take the accusation that I might be dead. Eventually, people are going to figure out that's not true. The bad guy part, like how if people hear it, how are they going to be able to, not hear it again? So
he's a piece of garbage.
Unbelievable. Okay, well, carry on. I'll go back to my grave over here.
I guess my takeaway was that, and it's like I'm not fully on this. That just didn't look. It wasn't a very inspired performance. No. If you were looking for a performance to be like, Tennessee is still, this is a team that still feels like they have a lot to play for, they didn't necessarily qualm those doubts. Now, It's New Mexico State. That's just a hard game to get up for at this point in the season anyway. So maybe it's just that. Maybe we'll see a different level of energy next week, but certainly not as crisp as Tennessee typically is in these bye games.
Yeah, part of me feels like it was the look-ahead game, and rightfully so. Like, you came out and played far from your best football, and you still won pretty handily. Yeah. So it makes sense that, maybe that was the case, and it was that look-ahead game when you have the big Florida game next Saturday, and then you have a massive one with Vanderbilt where you can play spoiler here. But I would agree. We said going into this game, we'd learn a lot about what Tennessee could look like over these last 2 games, and I don't want to rule them out, and I'm not going to say they're going 7-5 or something like that, but I think, as you alluded to, it didn't. I think you said qualm those worries, or it didn't make you feel better, I guess, about that aspect of it.
Yeah, it certainly wasn't this team has turned the page from Oklahoma. This team's turned the page from being eliminated, most likely eliminated from the college football playoff, and is new season here, and they're fired up. So again, I don't necessarily think that it just means that they've quit or anything like that. Mm-hmm. I don't think any of that's necessarily true, but it didn't give a ton of. It didn't lighten the doubts or make me feel way better about it or anything like that.
Yeah, the word you used was it was not a very inspiring performance. I saw something that was inspiring.
I think I know what your number one takeaway is.
My number one takeaway was...
let me guess. Was it the wave?
It was the wave.
Yeah.
And I'm such an anti-wave guy, but that wave was unbelievable. It was one of the greatest waves I've ever seen.
Are we calling it the Wendell wave or the wave of Wendell? I
like the Wendell wave. That is my only gripe with it, is the fans started the wave as a starting offensive lineman was injured, and I don't think we'll find out more. I don't think it's not like he season-ending horrific injury, but he was genuinely injured, and they were starting that wave, but it was unbelievable.
I'm glad that you brought this up because we also brought it up down there.
You better believe it.
On the RTI postgame show, except we ended with it. It obviously stuck out to you so much that you started with it. Got to give you a lot of respect for that. There were not just that, which, by the way, it was one of the most committed waves I've ever seen.
It was so good.
They were going and going. It took a Joey Aguilar deep pass to Mike Matthews, which got broken up in the end zone, to just slow the thing down. We also mentioned, who loved it besides you?
The recruits. The recruits loved it. They were all over.
That's exactly what we said. The recruits loved it. They were going nuts. It might have been their biggest takeaway. Ryan Shumpert made a joke to Go Vols 247's Ryan Callaway. He was Callahan. Excuse me, Callahan.
Like Brian.
I'm thinking of other Callaways. And he was like, Ryan, look, I'm gonna need you to ask the recruits what they thought about the wave.
We gotta know.
I thought that was one of the funniest parts of the whole thing. There were two very fan-heavy moments in this game, and then the other one came directly after the wave, which was when everybody in a good portion of the stadium randomly turned on their phone lights out of nowhere. Just not like for an actual reason.
Well, tell us if there's a reason. If you're listening and you were
good point.
In the stadium, whether you had your lights on or not, maybe you heard some scuttle. Maybe there was a reason. We just missed it.
And the crazy thing is that it also went hand in hand with an injury.
Miles Kitselman?
No, that was Deshaun. That was the Deshaun one, I believe.
Was that the Deshaun Bishop one?
I think that was the Deshaun one. And then I think when Kitselman went down, we were like, are they going to swag surf? What are they going to do? And then even after the touchdown, Payne Lewis got hurt, and I was waiting for one. Maybe they just skipped one. But it was. I seriously, I can't get over the wave.
It was a strong
It went on for
wave.
so long, and I don't think there was a single person in the stadium that wasn't doing it, including every recruit in the building.
Every recruit in the building was definitely doing it.
They were doing it. Their mom was doing it. Their dad was doing it. It was, I cannot. I assume it did not come across the TV channel.
Well, there's also from the press box, we can't really see the people sitting in front of us. And there were a couple times where it's like, oh, it's been a while. It's probably died down. Like, it must have died below us. And then, like a phoenix rising from the ashes, it would come back up again on the other side.
Well, that was my favorite part. Was it wasn't just like it would go from underneath us, and we were like, oh, is it gone? And you'd look over to the recruiting section right beyond the end zone, and you would see all the recruits in anticipation looking underneath us where the wave was, ready to rejoin the wave. I usually hate the wave. That was truly a special performance tonight.
When is the last time that you guys have seen, not even just that committed of a wave, but the wave in general? For me, it's been a long, I can't even name a time.
I feel like they hit it at least once a year at Neyland for one of these non-conference games.
I don't know. I don't have a strong take on this. Maybe. Yeah. I feel like I've seen it at a Vanderbilt game. Maybe a baseball game I've been at, not necessarily Tennessee, but maybe baseball.
So you need the full. You need the full surrounding.
Yeah.
Man, that got me fired up. We can talk about football now, but that was awesome.
I love how we started by not talking about anything, and then we briefly talked about football, and then back to talking about nothing.
Well, this is some big news coming out of this game. Boo Carter was not seen, and now he played in the Oklahoma game 2 weeks ago, but just as a punt returner, he did not log any defensive snaps today. Did not see him during warm-ups. He did not return punts. He did not play defense. Did not see him on the sideline. Josh Heupel didn't explicitly say if he was inside of Neyland Stadium or not, but Shumpert, do you have the quote up? If you want to, I do. I have it. Or I don't want to paraphrase.
Yeah. So Josh Heupel's exact quote, when asked if Boo Carter, why he was not on the sideline during the game, he said, quote, "At the end of the day, there's a standard that you have to meet to be in that locker room."
The end of the day.
He was not. He was not out on the field with us. That will be my last response to anything related to that for right now. So, left the end, shut the door on it. Obviously, it's going to be asked about on Monday again, but did not have a lot to say on it besides the fact that what stands out. Besides, at the end of the day, there's a standard that you have to meet to be in that locker room.
Well, you say he shut the. He didn't really shut the door. He left the door open and said, "Don't walk through it."
Good point.
I didn't really understand the revealing half of the information, but not taking a firm stance. I don't know.
Home Alone style. He set a booby trap. Yeah. He opened the door, but he had a booby trap set.
If you ask me again, you will pay for it. No, but it's. I don't know. It doesn't seem like we're not going to see Boo Carter again this year. I think that's fair to say.
Given it does not seem as if he was even in the stadium.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one thing if it's another suspension or you're holding them out, because obviously a lot of guys didn't go today. Which, too, if you're worried about, a Josh Josephs or a Jordan Ross or anyone, even Jesse Perry not necessarily playing till he had to be inserted for Wendell Moy later in the game. Josh Heupel did say, too, that a lot of those guys would have played if it was a tougher opponent. But as far as Boo Carter, it just doesn't feel great about really seeing him at Tennessee past year. We'll have to wait to see exactly how that develops and see if he hits the portal or what that situation exactly looks like. But I wouldn't count on seeing him in Gainesville or against Vanderbilt, which then turns to, I think that just means defensively, Jalen McMurray is going to play pretty much every snap at star. Maybe you go to a little bit more of a 3-linebacker look, especially with Jaden Perlotti playing a lot better right now and really coming on as a freshman. But then that punt return, it's been Boo Carter for the majority of the season. Looks like DeJuan Morris is the guy. He was the one back there returning punts today.
Yeah, he looked comfortable doing it. I don't necessarily think, did he return any? I feel like he didn't.
I think
it was all fair
most
catches.
Most of them he just kind of let hit the ground. And
yeah, to the point that we talked about, it felt like every New Mexico State drive ended between the 40s.
Yeah, and I'm not saying he should have.
Yeah, so it wasn't like necessarily he was put in a lot of spots where he would be catching it. So I guess it's hard to get a read on him. He returned a couple against Syracuse to open the year. Him and Braylon Staley split duties in that game. And then Morris was hurt for a good bit in the middle of the year, which is something you didn't really notice just because he doesn't play on offense. And Boo had taken over to punt returning duties by then. So.
And then they tried Braylon Staley again to start the Mississippi State game. He muffed the punt on the first drive after they should have got off the field immediately and probably have a good bit of momentum in that road environment to get off the field that quickly, and how well the offense was playing, particularly at that point. You had to feel decent about the offense, maybe putting out points. You muffed the punt, and Mississippi State scores, and that felt like probably the final chance for him. You try to think of other options, like Jermod McCoy was an option last year, but obviously he's not ready to go right now. You're looking more at like Deshaun Bishop's gotten tries here and there at practice and stuff, but that just doesn't feel like that's a. I'm perfectly fine, I guess, what I'm getting at with DeJuan Morris, true freshman, doesn't play a lot. That could be kind of a way he contributes here at the end of the year.
Yeah, I think so. And I think if you have issues with him, you probably just go back to Braylon Staley. I do think it's Morrison. Look, there's 2-3 games counting the bowl game left in the season, so I don't envision things going so poorly that you would have to make a move away from him.
Yeah, at this point with the punt return game too, it's just kind of like just don't muff it. Like, just get the offensive ball, because I guess that'll take us to more of what we saw on the offensive side today, but not the most inspiring performance again from the offense tonight. But overall this season, you have to be really excited about the step the offense has taken after a big down year a year ago. So just get the offense on the field. Don't keep the defense out there. Fair catch it if you need to. Let the ball hit the ground in a lot of situations like DeJuan Morris did today. If you need to, just get the offense on the field. But with that said, you touched on it a little bit as we started, but what were your biggest takeaways offensively, the good, the bad, the ugly, and then Joey Aguilar at quarterback?
Yeah, I think it's all quarterback. It's all quarterback centric. 2 interceptions to me is a big thing that stands out. Mm-hmm. It's now 4 from Aguilar in the last 2 games, 5 turnovers in the last 2 games, and that's just that was the concern with Joey Aguilar coming into the season, and you'd seen some of it, but it really hadn't reared its ugly head until these last 2 games. And can he qualm those? Can he get back on track to end the season? And I think for different reasons, turnovers are going to be big issues, or a big part of these next 2 games, as they are any game really. But Florida's a team that struggles to score offensively, and you don't want to give them free points. Oklahoma has won their last 2 games at Tennessee and at Alabama today because they scored defensive touchdowns, and they got the ball in good field position because of special teams and mistakes like that. Basically, they had 212 yards of offense today and won in Tuscaloosa, which is just remarkable. So you don't want to allow Florida to do that, a team with a good defense and an offense that struggled for most of the year. And in Vanderbilt, it's just a team that the way they play ball control, they're going to shorten that game and lessen the possessions in that game. And my guess will come down to a lot of the details, and Tennessee hasn't been great in the details this year, and certainly turnovers would very much fall into that category.
Yeah, it's what you said. Looking at this game against New Mexico State, Joey Aguilar ultimately could have thrown 2 more interceptions, and it would have mattered that much, but this isn't the SEC you're talking about here. You go back to that Oklahoma game, and those 2 were so untimely. They not only led to Oklahoma points, but just kept Tennessee from being able to kind of capitalize towards the end of the first half, be able to go into the locker room with some momentum. But, Ryan, I was going to say what you said. You hit the nail on the head. For two completely different reasons. The turnovers are a big kind of storyline going into these final two games, and it's not like turnovers and interceptions aren't always going to be important. That's football 101. We're not preaching anything new to people, but for completely different reasons. For Florida, man, you give a team like that extra opportunities. You know, as we sit here right now, I don't have a TV around me, but Florida is hanging with, but Florida's hanging with Ole Miss, and I think at this time that we're recording, they're winning maybe 24-20, something like that. By the time you're listening to this, it looks like Ole Miss has scored, so 27-24. So Florida hanging around with the Rebels in Oxford. But, throughout most of the season, it's been an offense that's been pretty darn lethargic, and you don't want to give them extra opportunities. On the other hand, Vanderbilt, you give them extra opportunities, like they're probably going to score off them. You saw that back-and-forth barn burner last weekend. It does make me nervous. That's something that, is minor in a game like this, but just like we saw against Oklahoma, could have major ramifications in these final two games.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's just, I think, when you look at the whole of the season, that's almost one of the things that, and the season's not over, we'll see how Tennessee plays the last two games, but through 10 games, that's almost one of the things that I'd say has been one of their biggest issues, is just putting things together, playing complementary football, winning into margins. And that's, frankly, where Tennessee was really good last year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how many times did the defense bail the offense out, or when the defense did force turnover, the offense, even with all their issues, for the most part, it felt like they were able to capitalize on a lot of those chances when the defense didn't make big plays. So all those little things have been an area where Tennessee struggled this year, and we're going to need to be good in these last two games.
Let's talk, before we pivot to defense, let's talk what Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre did. Now, I didn't get the greatest look. I'll have to rewatch, really, for both of those guys. I was kind of about the point that I was making my way down to the field. So I'll start with you, Shumper, because you stayed in the press box and got the all-22 look. I guess start with Jake. There was, questions on who was going to be the first quarterback out there, given, do you really want to go kind of almost all in on George McIntyre as a candidate next year to win that job? What does Jake Merklinger's future look like after losing the quarterback battle this offseason? It was Merklinger for, one drive, and then they went to McIntyre.
2 plays for Merklinger.
What did you think about those two guys, and I guess how they utilized both of them?
Merklinger didn't inspire a whole lot of confidence, I wouldn't say. I mean, he enters in 2nd and 3, and Tennessee throws 2 passes and loses 5 yards on it. Not that it was all Merklinger's fault necessarily. But he just hasn't looked great at all when he's played this year. So
no,
it didn't do a ton to change the dynamic there. Change the dynamic. Change how I feel about Jake Merklinger's situation entering the offseason. McIntyre, it kind of stunk not to see more of him. Because it just didn't really feel like we saw much. First play, bootleg, wide open, completes it. Did his job, completed a pass to Cole Harrison that goes for 16, 17 yards. Actually, Harrison fumbled it, and Tennessee recovered it. And then 2 runs up the middle that netted 0 yards, and then it's 3rd and long. And he just took a deep shot and didn't connect on it. And then he got back in and handed the ball off 3 times, and the game was over. So, if really neither of those guys we didn't see much of. McIntyre especially felt like we didn't really see anything of note on. That's
still the issue with not putting up points early and the defense letting New Mexico State get a couple first downs and then stalling out, and then you looked at the score at halftime and it's like, man, what was it, 21-3 at half? Like that's not even close to a margin to put in the backups or backup quarterback, and even after they scored that first touchdown out of the half, it's like, okay, well, that's still not enough to do that. They got the defense touchdown, the William Wright play.
That was part of it too. They'd already gotten it to 35,
mm-hmm.
and then you get the defense touchdown, so you're back-to-back defense possession. Because to me, when it got to 35, it felt like, all right, next drive to go to the backups, and then you just have back-to-back defensive drives because of the Big Six.
And then you throw the bone to Joey Aguilar as well, who was at 197 through the air. He got the passing yard streak of over 200 yards. Can you how much is it now, Rick? 34 straight games for every FBS start he's had, I believe it is the number.
He came off the bench in his first game. That was the last game. His first game at App State. That was his first game.
So
the last game he did.
Every time he started a game at the FBS level, he's going over 200 yards, which is pretty remarkable. But probably would have came to a close tonight, but then at the same time you give it the asterisk of, well, he would have played like 2.5 quarters. So he gets the little screen, I think it was to Mike Matthews to get over that mark, and that cuts into one of Jake Merklinger's plays. I guess I'll put it like this: hypothetical. I love a good hypothetical. Joey Aguilar goes down in the swamp next week. Is it still Jake Merklinger, the guy you'd want to see, even though it hasn't been the best play from him off the bench so far?
Not who I want to see, no. I mean, I would guess that's who it would be to start, but I'd want to see McIntyre.
Is that because you think he gives you a better chance to win then, or you want the experience going forward?
I think he gives you, both, but I think he gives you a better chance to win.
Okay, interesting. You got a thought on that, Rick?
Yeah, I guess just there's been a couple of nice throws that we've seen, and I really kind of got to go back pretty far in the memory bank to remember some of Merklinger's throws. I mean, he didn't even end up on the box score today. But I just thought that some
That's
of it...
That's not true. He did enough on the box score today.
Did he complete a pass?
Yeah.
Okay. I must have missed him on the box score down there.
1 of 2 for negative 2 yards.
Okay, you're right.
Even
you're right.
0 for 1 shows up.
Yeah, so he just got a pass.
Look, maybe it was a condensed box sheet that they gave out earlier. I don't know. Anyways,
Blame it on UT Athletics. I like it.
There you go.
Blame it on the comms people.
It can never be my fault. That's not
Bad
true.
guy. Bad guy.
We're very stop that.
He's a piece of garbage.
Stop that. We're very thankful for all the things that UT Communications does for us and makes our life considerably easier.
You're just ready to throw him under the bus. Sylvia and I, we defend you guys if y'all are listening. Rick,
Are you kidding me?
Rick was ready to back over you with the bus.
That's not true. Anything that we get from UT Athletics Communications, I tag them. I make sure they know when we post their photos. I put the credit on Instagram or Twitter
that
or
is
YouTube,
true.
whatever.
You do a very good job with the
I make sure to give people credit for their hard work. That all being said,
however,
I cannot believe this is. There's so many recordings in a row where I have got thrown under the bus. You talk about them getting thrown. I get thrown under the bus.
What are you talking about?
Anyways, let me compose myself here.
You're talking about Jake Merklinger,
yes,
and who you'd want to see if Joey goes down.
I even going back in the memory bank a little bit, like I just didn't think that there were that many, I don't know, just kind of, wow moments. It felt like maybe more so that there were moments where you just kind of felt like he was still trying to get his feet under him a little bit. Now I feel like going to a spot in Gainesville, it's going to be tough for either one of those guys because of the lack of experience that they both have. But at that point, I think that you would just kind of put all the cards out on the table and say that, hey, I don't know what Jake Merklinger has looked like in practice or anything like that. I don't know what the coaches think about him. Ryan, I agree with you in saying that I do think he would be the guy to get the football. Now, maybe a change should come after that, but I would like to see McIntyre as well, if that hypothetical does come up. And, you hope it doesn't if you're a Tennessee fan. There's no doubt about that. But I think I would rather see McIntyre, and frankly, I wish we could have seen a little bit more of him today, but that's just how things kind of turned out, and Tennessee's offense couldn't get necessarily enough done in the first half to get more than 28 points, but 28, 35, whatever it might have been, but that's just how things kind of ended up working out.
I think part of the issue, because Sylvia, you kind of mentioned the defense side of it and not going, I think the issue has been this season is less like the starting defense in these games. It's been when Tennessee's gotten to the third strings and the freshmen, it feels like they've given up a lot of long drives against UAB and again today. So when it has been the second half, when you're trying to get those drives for Merklinger and McIntyre, it feels like the defense has been on the field a lot because they've been, unable to get off the field.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, that's also part of it is you are still injured back there. You're still without Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson. Everyone knows all the injuries. And then you're without even more guys today. So when you do get to the second stringers or the third string, you are even more thin than maybe you wanted to be in the first place. And I think you see that at safety as well, where Caleb Beasley has the potential to be a good player, but he's playing like a handful of snaps in big games, and he played a good amount tonight because he's your first safety off the bench. And so a guy that usually would maybe be at this point, like if you still had a Jacoby Thomas and he didn't transfer in the spring, maybe he doesn't really play much in big games at all, and now he's somewhat of a piece, and then he's not a bench piece, and the guy behind him's a bench piece, so then it gets a little shakier and shakier as you go down the list. But I would agree, the starting defense today, the guys that were available and were the first guys on the field and played really the first half and into the second half, was it the greatest performance of all time? Did they shut down Mexico State? No, but they did fine. They came up in moments when they needed to. They didn't really let them get past the 40 or like the 38 much. It was a lot of drives ending right there at midfield. So I guess it's kind of just sums up the thoughts of the game as a whole, where it's like, doesn't make you feel better about the defense, but I guess it's not like I'm going to completely be like, yeah, I mean, the defense is awful and they're going to lose to Florida because of that. It's just kind of the same spot we were in before, I guess.
Yeah, I do think I feel better about the linebackers just because Jaden Perlotti continues to play
Perlotti
better.
looks awesome.
Evan Spillman, I thought, played well again tonight. It feels like he's just been getting better and better as the year goes on. Ty Redmond, I thought, had a really nice game. Obviously, the interception was impressive, but a good tackle on a scramble that saved a good number of yards and a pass breakup and just some good coverage in general. So
killed a guy too. That
was Perlotti though.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Perlotti. My bad.
Yes, I did it originally. Then I went to Redmond.
Yeah,
but
Perlotti
destroyed.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
That was crazy.
It was flicking up on the right stick in the
yeah, it really was. So that was a positive one. Just stream of consciousness sitting here. Did we see Sidney Walton tonight? I don't remember seeing him.
If he did, it wasn't until later, I want to say.
Because he was not officially ruled out, but I don't remember him playing.
He didn't appear on the box score for box score watching like Rick was, but that doesn't mean he didn't play necessarily.
I guess we'll see tomorrow.
Yeah, because Trey Poteet got in. I want to say Dylan Lewis got in at the end as well. I want to say.
I think so.
But I don't remember necessarily seeing Trey Poteet. But I do think, like, those guys, as you mentioned, a lot of those younger guys, the Jaden Perlottis, Jamin Harmon, you go down the list. It was another good game for them, and I think that has to make you excited about what this defense could look like as soon as next year. Like, that was something Tim Banks talked about this week about Jaden Perlotti he was like, this guy's got a chance to be as good of a linebacker as they've had at Tennessee, which is it's kind of a funny way he phrased it because it's not like they've been there for that long still in the grand scheme of things. It's been in year 5, but still they've had good linebacker play, and he just seemed pretty amped up on what the potential of a guy like Jaden Perlotti is. You look at someone like Ty Redmond, where he has come such a long way since that Georgia game where he got picked on, and of course Georgia was going to go after him and make him prove it, and he wasn't necessarily ready for that, and Tennessee didn't have the best game plan to try to protect him at that point, and he got picked on, and it was part of the reason that Georgia was able to engineer that comeback. I don't think you could pick on him maybe to the degree, of course, Colton Hood's a guy that you would much less like to throw to than Ty Redmond, but it just feels like he's come a long, long way since that Georgia game when really was the first time he was truly tested.
No doubt. He's grown a ton over the course of the season, and, just projecting right now, and obviously that's hard to do in college football these days. I assume Colton Hood and Trevon McCoy will be gone, and Ricky Gibson will be back next season. And
you would think Ricky will at least play college football. I mean, we'll see.
Exactly.
Not saying that I think
that
he's going
was
to
in my hard to project category.
Yeah, because he intended to enter the spring portal and didn't. If you think back to this offseason, so it's always that's one to keep tabs on. But yes, in a perfect world of still losing Colton Hood, who's played his way to a high draft pick, and Trevon McCoy, who feels like he's still a top 15, top 20 pick, that would be two really good cornerbacks to have too, I think.
Yeah, and all that say, I would like to that point, I would. If I was Tennessee, I'd like to bring in a body in the portal just for depth at the very least.
Another Jalen McMurray type of.
Yeah, maybe someone. Maybe it's just because I think they need at least one safety, and maybe it's one safety and one guy that can play a little bit of both. I also don't know what they're going to do with Starr next season.
Yeah, I mean, Marcus Gorey would be the guy technically on the depth chart, but that also Starr feels like to the position that they're most comfortable putting an inexperienced guy in, whether that is a young guy or whether that would be a transfer that maybe they don't want to put out on the island at corner yet, because that just whenever they have to shake things up, that seems to be the spot they like. You think Boo Carter last year, like it was like, all right, let's get Boo Carter, and at Starr when if down the line if things worked out at Tennessee, it feels like he probably would have developed into a safety at some point.
Yeah, agree. But off the topic, but all that to say, if it is Ty Redmond or Ricky Gibson next year at corner, you feel good about that, and that obviously Gibson has proved it last season that he was a good corner, and it speaks to the improvement Redmond's had and the growth he's had over the course of the season.
And I think you just talking guys in the secondary who you would think would be back next year. I think Idris Farouk continues to play really well. He had a good game against Kentucky. The highlight of scoring a touchdown's gonna make it seem like a lot better, even if it was a bad game. But I thought he had a good game as well, and then he probably had the best game of his career against Oklahoma. Not that he was tested too much tonight, but it was another good game from him. It's just kind of been the other safety spot between Andre Turrentine and Caleb Beasley that's been the little more shaky, questionable, the iffy tackling and things like that have been kind of the worry as of late. Linebacker play, as you said, I think is really good. And then I meant to chime in too. Aaron Carter not playing today, I think, is obviously a kind of a good thing for the long run. He's been dealing with the turf toe. He's been trying to play through it. Having 2 weeks off could go a long way in getting him ready, and that would be a big deal to have that starting duo of Aaron Carter, Jeremiah Thielander, and then having the options of going Edwin Spillman, Jaden Perlotti behind them would be a big deal for the Florida and Vandy game.
Yeah, no doubt, especially the Vandy game. I feel like that's the game.
Yeah, with really how much Diego's going to want to run and all that.
Yeah, so completely agree. That's all going to be very important going forward for Tennessee, and feel relatively good about those guys getting healthy.
Any final thoughts from either of you guys? I think we touched on offense, defense, special teams. There wasn't much there. We punt returning. We talked to. So I guess we got all three phases of it. Anything else?
No, nothing else comes to mind.
Rick, you wanna send this one out then?
I would love to. I don't think there's anything else that we need to hit on. We already talked about the wave. That was a big one. We already talked about the flashlights. That was a big one. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap this up and get out of here. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Rocky Top Insider Press Pass podcast. Go ahead and subscribe to the Rocky Top Insider YouTube channel, wherever you get your favorite podcasts, for the wide range of shows that we have on our network. Not only do we have the RTI Press Pass, but we have the RTI Pancakes and Bacon with VFL Kyler Kerbyson and Reed Bacon. We have RTI Rim Runner, a Tennessee basketball and SEC basketball podcast with Bob Baskerville and Ryan Shumpert. And, of course, the RTI Lowdown, a Sunday night show featuring Chris Lowe and Bob Baskerville. All those things on the Rocky Top Insider Network. Also, be sure to check out our friends at WATE. You can do that by checking out the WATE 6 Plus Smart TV app. Super easy to download. Gets you access to tons of local East Tennessee coverage, both sports and non-sports, and you can even see our shows and our podcasts there as well. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for listening to the RTI Press Pass podcast today. For Ryan Shumpert, for Ryan Sylvia, I'm Rick Butler. Tennessee defeats New Mexico State 42-9 in Neyland Stadium.